So Gold Glove awards are defensive superiority awards. It's the easiest way to think about it, right? And
Hmm.
it is sponsored by Rawlings and endorsed by Major League Baseball. It's a partnership between the two organizations. And what happens is Rawlings actually takes the glove of the ball player and they dip it or spray it in gold, right? In gold paint.
Hmm.
And then they mount it on
Like a plaque
block of
or like a,
wood, kind of like a
yeah,
plaque. Yeah, and then it goes on it. It's a shelf piece, is what it is from that year.
yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's a great tradition. It's gone back a really long time. But let's talk about
One thing that is funny about it though is that they talk about on Dan Patrick about how you would think that it would be like something a little more solid, but he's like, it doesn't weigh anything. It's just like a piece of wood with a glove, and it's
yeah,
like you could go down, you could make your own gold glove by going
right.
down to Home Depot and getting some spray paint and spraying your glove. Then you got
Yeah,
a gold glove, just like
that's
they
right.
have. It's fun. It is definitely a symbolic piece that obviously means a whole lot because then you get the gold glove patch, the Rawlings gold patch on your glove for the rest. I think for the rest of your career or the next year, something like that. Anyway, you get that patch on your glove the next year at the very least that shows that you're a gold glove winner. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it is funny that the award itself is, I don't want to say cheap, but relatively speaking compared to what some like the Silver Sluggers what they get,
Yeah.
it's a little
Yeah,
bit
that's different.
not there's not quite as much that goes into it. Anyway, sorry, go
I
ahead.
agree. No, 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 it's okay. It began in 1957. So that's when Rawlings created the Gold Glove Award, and that they use it to commemorate the best fielding. And they break it down by each position, and they break that down by each league. So there will be an American League first base winner, and there will be a National League first base winner, and that's how it kind of goes this year. And pretty typically, there are three finalists in each category, and we're going to go into all of that. But we're going to start by explaining who gets voted or how they get eligible and things like that. So let's start with pitchers. All pitchers, in order to earn a chance at winning the Gold Glove Award, all pitchers must have pitched in at least 138 innings by his team's 138th game. So that's kind of easy to remember. 138 innings by the 138th game. That's for pitchers. If you're a catcher, you must have played in at least half of the team's games by his team's 138th game. So you have to have played in 69 games minimum, and that puts you before the team's
Yeah,
138th game.
I say specifically before the 138th game. Like you can't just play in 69 games for the entire season. It has to be by
Right.
138.
Yes, exactly. So infielders and outfielders break down differently. They must have played in the field for at least 698 total innings through the team's 138th game.
Oh, real quick,
690.
Brig,
Yeah.
138, game 138 this year
Hmm.
was the first full week in September,
Oh, nice.
just for
That's good to
a
know.
point of
Thank you.
reference.
So, just a reminder, infielders and outfielders must have played 698 innings total through the team's 138th game. This equates, and I'm reading directly from Rawlings right now, this equates to playing in the field for approximately 7.5 innings per game in approximately 67% of the team's games by the time you reach 138. That they argue that this ensures that only full-time players are considered. And that's one of the standout details, and we'll get into some more of this in a minute, but that's one of the standout details is that you have to be a consistent player and then a consistent performer defensively in order to even qualify for selection.
So
Okay,
that's
all in
interesting. It's interesting that they break it down that way because 698 total innings is only 56% of the possible um,
number of innings.
1,242.
Right,
So you could miss almost half the season and actually still qualify for it. So
right.
guys who come in a little late and things like that can still qualify, or somebody who gets even called up. right? So
Exactly.
say that your right fielder replaces your starting right fielder in May or even June, I think, and plays every day, is outstanding on defense, qualifies for
Yeah.
that award.
That's a good point. And now remember, these are minimum performance qualifications. This is just what it require, how much field time, how much game time there is required to even qualify. Now, the final bullet I'm going to read off from Rawlings is really interesting because it says that all infielders and outfielders with at least 698 total innings played qualify at that specific position where he played the most innings. So where his manager utilized him most. Now, put a pin in that because some guys move around, and we're going to talk about utility players in just a moment. But this is just for traditional position players. We read off the pitchers and catchers, but everybody else is under that 698 window. Okay. That's the selection qualification criteria, the minimum qualification. Now, let's talk about the statistics. The statistical analysis for reaching for making it into becoming a finalist. Wow, I don't know why that was hard to say. The way they sort guys who are of minimum qualification is a SABR metric. And this accounts for 25% of the selection. So SABR uses their defensive index, which is their trademark SDI, is what they call it. That's the acronym for the SABR Defensive Index statistic. And according to SABR, it's a measure of the number of runs saved by a player's defensive performance over the course of a season compared to the average defensive player at that position. So that offers some fluctuation year to year, which some could argue muddies the water. Others could argue is, it kind of like allows you to ride the wave of the times because baseball does change and evolve and performance is always moving forward in certain ways. So I like that personally. Okay.
Real quick, Brig.
Yeah,
You're
go
talking
ahead.
about SABR. So for those of you who don't know what SABR is the Society for American Baseball Research. SABR is SABR, all caps is how that is. And they're like the standard for baseball statistics and using them for measuring things like defensive efficiency and things like that. For those, like I said, anybody who doesn't know. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I'm glad you said that. They're also the group responsible for things like FWAR and these different.
Well, F4, I think they were the ones who originally came up with WAR. F4 is Fangraphs and BWAR is baseball references because they each have their own formula for how they calculate WAR. But I think SABR initially came up with the WAR statistic, like the initial complicated formula to calculate that. I wish it was
convoluted.
A little easier to do. It is not.
No, it's not. But you're right. WAR, that is them. They're responsible for a bunch of these, more in-depth statistics. So SABR's SDI combines measures from 6 different categories, 6 different defensive data sources, and that includes factors that rate the defender's arm strength, accuracy, range, sure-handedness, like bobbling the balls and things like that, along with the number of, quote, excellent and, quote, poor fielding plays that the player makes. Again, I'm just reading right off of their thing. I don't want to mess this up. The SDI also incorporates a rating for a player's ability to turn double plays, specifically if you're a second baseman or a shortstop, fielding a bunt, which primarily will affect pitchers, catchers, third, and first baseman, and scoops of throws in the dirt for first baseman. So now you can see how we're getting real picky about who qualifies under what circumstances and which data points are required to become a finalist. It goes on. It says for catchers, blocking balls in the dirt and or stolen bases / caught stealing successes, they're also included. For pitchers, the SDI includes his ability to hold runners on base and control the running game. So that's all from Rawlings. This is their game. This is their award. The things they've decided qualify you, okay, to become a finalist, honestly. Now, that's stats. Just to go back, that's 25% of the selection. Now, voting accounts for the other 75% of the selection. And this is where I think it's really cool, because now you're getting into meritocracy from both sides. You're seeing, okay, here's the minimum threshold. And then in order to become a finalist and even be on the roster or the ballot that goes out to the people voting, you have to meet these standards. And then the final standard is the group standard. So voting is done by 30 Major League Baseball managers, one from each team, and up to 6 coaches per team. Okay. Only the manager and the 6 coaches from each team vote. That is a total of 7 votes per team. Each person has to sign the completed ballot in order for it to be considered valid. Managers and coaches are not allowed to vote for their own players, and they can only vote for players in their league. So if you're an American League manager, you can only vote for American League ball players. The National League, it's the same. Voting also absolutely must be sealed, right? It has to be, it's like top secret baseball stuff. So you're not allowed to, there's no collusion is what they're saying. Nobody's allowed to see the voting, the voting ballot, the list of eligible players who make it all the way to the voting round. If you want to think about it that way, the ballot is in alphabetical order. So it doesn't matter what team you play for. They don't sort it based on any sort of franchise affiliation. It's in alphabetical order. And it just runs down by position, everybody who's eligible. So the interesting, we're going to get into the Gold Glove finalists for 2023 right now, but 2022 marked an absolutely like watershed moment, not only in this award, but in baseball in general, with the formal recognition of utility players. Rawlings and Major League Baseball decided that they would award a Gold Glove to utility players. This goes all the way back to, I mean, you can go back as far as you want for guys who play all over the place and who are capable of all, like defensive superiority so DJ LeMahieu won it in the American League last year, and he plays all over the infield except shortstop. He plays first, second, and third. And the dude's amazing. He also, except for the second half of last year and the first half of this year, is very, very capable at the plate as well. But that's not the point of Gold Gloves. But anyway, 2022 was the first year they started awarding utility.
A Gold Glove for utility player. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.